Over the last 5 years, I've sent well over 10 million cold emails across dozens of different industries, booked thousands of sales calls, and generated millions of dollars worth of revenue for the clients that we've worked with, including our own. And during that time, I've tried virtually every cold email tool that exists out there on the market, even the lesser known ones. And believe it or not, there's really only a handful that are worth talking about and even trying. So in this video today, I'm going to be breaking down 8 of the best cold email tools that exist out there on the market across 4 different categories, ranking them on 3 different aspects: their complexity, their uniqueness, and their pricing. So you know which ones are worth trying and which ones aren't. But before we get into that content, if you enjoy this sort of cold email content, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. That way you can find more videos like this and help the channel grow. So naturally, let's start with our first category, which is going to be finding leads. If you're new to the lead generation space, welcome. If you're not, I'm sure you're very familiar with this tool. It's going to be Apollo.io. Essentially what it is it's just a database that holds a bunch of different contacts and companies. They also have a sequencer, but the way that sequencer is built, it's just not technically sound, and you're essentially sharing an IP address with a bunch of other people that are spending out a ton of different volume. Now, the actual search and filtering components of the platform are super easy to use, and its price point is pretty comparable to what you're going to see out there on the market. But with the introduction of other scraping tools like Export Apollo, for example, you can simply just get the HTML from Apollo, fire that into Export Apollo, and then just collect that data from there without having to pay the actual membership of Apollo. I know that they're pushing out a new platform that is going to have some different fields so that you just can't run a scraper directly on it. But for the time being, if you can access Apollo for free and then utilize a tool like Apollo Scraper, then you're going to be in great shape. So with that, I'd say the complexity is super low. The uniqueness of it is not really that incredible. They're just a cheap database for a bunch of leads that you can gather. And then for the pricing itself is super low. So I'd give this one a B tier. I think it's a pretty good tool. If you are new to cold email, one of the best tools that you can come across is going to be Ocean.io. It's an AI lookalike tool. And what it essentially does is, let's say you have a great customer that accounts for 80% of your revenue and none of your headaches, or you have a really great customer that you want to go after and you know that you're going to be the best fit for whatever's going on within their business because of your experience or a similar case study that you have. What you can do with Ocean, which is incredibly powerful, is you can essentially just import that domain into the tool itself on the far left side. From there, it'll then go and find another 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 different companies that look exactly like that one. So you can run hyper-targeted outreach to them, either pitching the case study or speaking specifically to the business challenges that they're likely encountering just because you know their business so well. Now, this lookalike tool is a great place to start, and it's often one of the initial campaigns that we like to run for clients. Even if they have an ideal case study that they are working with right now, or they just have a Dream 100, it gives us a really solid repository to work off of for the initial lead engagement and outbound activity. That said, the pricing is really high. It's not that complex, and it's a pretty unique tool. So with that, I'm going to be giving it a B as well. I think it's a solid tool and a great place to get started. Now, fair disclaimer, before I even get into this next tool, I have no affiliation with it. I just freaking love it. It was so challenging to figure out for the past 2 years, and it's likely because when you end up on the home screen of this tool, there's just a blank canvas and there's no really sort of direction. And if you're not sure with what I'm talking about right now, we're talking about Clay.com. Essentially what Clay.com is it's a massive aggregator of a bunch of different databases and tools, so you can just see everything within one pane of glass. Now, previously, when you were doing lead generation, it was a lot of disparate tools just here and there. You were trying to put together the pieces of the puzzle without actually seeing the puzzle here itself. So the really powerful aspect with Clay now is you can run an entire lead generation process from start to finish, from sourcing leads to enriching those leads, verifying those leads, personalizing the messages based on relevant indicators like their websites or their competition or what tech stacks they're doing, and then even push that into your send. With that, I'm going to be giving it on the God tier. It's an S tier, absolutely, hands down. If you haven't had the chance to check it out, I highly recommend you do so. I have a video walking through the exact process that I just mentioned there that is super easy to get figured out. I'll link that down there somewhere in the bio so you can check that out even more. Now for our next category, we'll be covering lead verifications. It's not one of the most sexy aspects of lead generation, but it's an absolute necessity. And what that essentially looks like is you're going to pull a bunch of leads from those tools like Apollo or Export Apollo or Seamless or ListKit, right? And typically when you work with them, they say that they're verified, but we don't know that's actually to be true. And what we found is if you do that, around 70 to 80% of them actually are verified, which means the other 30 to 20% are you're going to send to, they're going to bounce. And then the email service providers like Google or Microsoft are going to look at them and say, why are these guys sending to a bunch of bounce emails? It must be a bunch of spammers. Therefore, let's put them on the spam list as well. So it's a necessary evil, as I mentioned. And one of the best tools that we found to actually verify emails at a rather effective price point is going to be a tool called Million Verifier. It's a really simple, easy interface to use. Essentially, just go in and drop the CSV in, and then it'll send out a bunch of proxy emails to those email service providers like Google or Microsoft just to see if they actually get hit and they bounce back as positive. It'll then break it down across 3 different categories, verified, risky, or not active. And from there, you'll just have a good repository to work off of and say, hey, all right, these are some valid emails. Let's take this one and then run them through another verification tool, which I'll talk about here in a second. Or you can just run those into your list. Take the risky emails as well, and then you'll want to double verify those. But for the other ones that just bounce, totally table those. It's not worth burning your reputation. Complexity of the tool, wicked easy. It's not that unique. There's a bunch of other verification tools that exist out there on the market, but its pricing is incredibly competitive, and that's why we consistently use it in our workflow process, specifically within Clay's waterfall enrichment. So with that, I'll be giving it on the lower tier, probably a C tier, just because it's not that unique. We can go and find a few more competitors, but that pricing is just too good to say no to. Now, I mentioned with Million Verifier that it'll be giving you categories of valid emails, risky emails, and then emails that bounce. What we typically end up doing for our clients and just our waterfall enrichment processes is we'll run them through a Million Verifier, and then we'll take them through another tool like Scrubby in this example. And what Scrubby will essentially do is we'll just take those risky emails and just run them through one last time to see if there's anything that we can save there. And the reason that we utilize Scrubby as a secondary tool is its price point is incredibly steep compared to what we're seeing with Million Verifier. It's a really good tool and it does the same similar functionalities and services. It's just more costly as a business perspective. And so if you're going to be running lead generation, I highly recommend that you source your leads, but then you double verify them with Million Verifier and Scrubby. The complexity of the platform is really simple. Another CSV drop in. It's not that unique, but its pricing is really high. It's a necessary evil that you need to do in your lead generation process if you're going to be successful. So with that, I'm going to give it a D. I'm just not totally sold on this tool. We just need to do it because, well, we need to do it if we're going to get our clients results. If there is one thing that A and S tier apps have in common, it is how complicated they are to get them set up and working correctly and how much they're going to cost you. And the reality is, if you're going to get really good results from cold emails, you need to spend a lot of time learning the tool itself, deploying that effectively within your business, tinkering with the tools, and ensuring that that process is consistently working. Because if there's anything that I've learned within cold email, it's that it's not a weekend project. So doing that entire thing is going to take you hundreds of hours of just training and resources and deployment and cost you a lot of money as well. So if you just want to get all the best results from cold emails without having to do all of that, book a call with us down here below and let's see if we can help out and fully deploy this cold email system within your business. Now, let's get into the next category, email sending. We've been sending emails for years now, and during that time, we've seen a bunch of other platforms just churn and burn specifically within this category, which is just a natural evolution of the market. To figure out these inbox sending tools is incredibly technically cumbersome, but if done correctly, can lead to exceeding results. And so this next one we'll be talking about is SmartLead. And essentially what SmartLead is you can take all the different sub email accounts that you just purchased, hook them up to this tool. And one of the unique features that they have that was first onto the market is a warm-up feature. And what warm-up essentially does is you can set your email accounts up to this tool and it'll send out a bunch of different proxy emails to the other emails that are hooked up to this tool, which essentially just increases the credibility and confidence when you look at email service providers like Google and Microsoft start to judge you. So this will help you end up in the inbox. We typically like to set up that inbox warm-up period for about 14 days before we actively start sending. That said, it's not that complex to use. I'd say it's more on the starter side of things. It's pretty unique in the technical capacities that they have, and they're continuing to build on top of it. And its pricing is rather competitive to start, but as you continue to scale, it gets really pricey. So with that, I'm gonna be giving it an A tier. I think it's a great tool to get started with and continue to grow your business, and continues to be a foundation of our go-to-market strategy for us and our clients. Over the past few years, we've played touch and go with this platform because the way that it's technically built is very similar to what SmartLead had started out with. It's just a shared IP address, which is just difficult when you're trying to send out a lot of volume, but you're also playing with a lot of other individuals that are trying to do the same thing. So those email service providers like Google and Microsoft, they're just looking at you and they're saying, hey, these guys are all running on the same IP address. They're obviously just being a bunch of spammers. And so they might have fixed that in the time since then. And the tool itself is rather easy to use, and it's got some nice quick little dashboards. I know they also have integrations with tools like Clade that I mentioned, so you can just have that field directly import over. That tool that I'm talking about here now is Instantly. It's been a pretty powerful sending tool over the years, and it's often just a split market between what people like to use between SmartLead and Instantly. We're Team SmartLead right now, and another tool here in a second that I think you're really gonna love. But Instantly has been a really good tool out there in the market, and it's been around for a long time. The complexity of the platform is pretty low, and it's a good place to get started with. It's not that unique compared to some of the other alternatives that exist out there on the market, and its pricing is rather competitive as well. So with that, I'm gonna be putting it on the B tier just because I'm not totally in love with it like I am with SmartLead and the tool that I'm about to mention here in just 1 second. Now, this next tool, it's a sleeper, and there's a reason for that, because the market right now isn't totally caught up onto the technical elements of cold email that need to be accounted for when you're sending out a lot of volume and specifically trying to get around a lot of email security tools like Proofpoint or Mimecast or SlashNext. Now, that tool that I'm talking around is Email Bison, and it's just not often floated around right now, but it's got a really impressive technical elements of it to where you're running on your own IP address, and it's a private sequencer that allows you to send emails from it. They don't have a warm-up feature, so we're doing the warm-up feature within SmartLead, and then we hook the accounts to Bison, but you're able to send emails from there. Own private IP address, private sequencer. You can even white label it as your own in case you're going to want to have clients engaging on it. You can have it across multiple different clients, so it's really scalable. The inbox feature totally isn't there yet, but just for the technical elements that this thing is built on, if you can set up the actual technical elements and then have a secondary inbox management tool with subsequences or manual follow-ups, you're going to be in a great spot to deliver incredible results. This tool is starting off in a great place, but it's got some growth to come down the line. It's really unique in the way it's built. It's pretty complex at this point, and its pricing is rather affordable. I think it's like $500 a month right now, and you have unlimited sending. We'll see if that stays true, but I think a C category is very fitting right now for where the tool is at. Now, at this point, you've probably realized that the most complicated apps are also the best ones to work with, only if you have the time and energy to fully master those resources. However, both you and I know that what leads to the most growth is focusing on working on the business and not in the business. So if you want to get all of the benefits of cold email and have somebody fully master this process and deploy it for you within your business, book a call with us down here below, and let's see if we can find some time to chat and help out. Until then, I'll see you in this next video.